never, when asked how you are, responded busy. How's life? Busy. How's work? So busy. I know that I have. It was a knee-jerk reaction for a long time until I realized that it was a problem, that I was feeling the burden of busyness. There I was sitting on my couch at 9 o'clock at night, shoving food in my mouth, just trying to get done so I could go to bed. I'd put in a 16-hour day as a mental health therapist. I'd given my all to my clients, and I was exhausted. I was numb. I was empty. And like so many of us as driven professionals, I had a spouse who just wanted to connect, who'd waited up for me to make sure that I got home okay and to ask about my day. Again, how are you? I was going through the motions. I hate to admit that, but because I was so numb, I was nodding along, just going through the motions. I just wanted to go to sleep. Until he got my full attention. He said, "Khara, when do I get to see you more than an hour a day?" Yikes, an hour a day. My head wanted to reject it, even though my heart knew it to be true. He was seeing me an hour a day because I'd given my life to busyness. I'd filled every nook and cranny with something. And like so many stubborn professionals, I knew that if I couldn't make a change for myself, I would make it for him, because I wanted my marriage to work. In fact, busyness dictates our whole life right now. I know I'm not alone in it. It dictates what we do with our free time, our relationships, and of course, what we do for work and how much of it that we do. I was one of those people that had ignored for months, if not years, the signs of busyness. My hair falling out, the weight gain, the mood swings, that 0 to 60 feeling when something gets added to your plate, your already full, overflowing plate, and you just lose it. I'd done all that, but this was the last straw. My spouse telling me he was seeing me 7 hours a week was it for me. I knew I needed to do something different. Now, if you relate to any of this, which I heard some of you do, it's getting worse. In the time of COVID, busyness is on the rise. In fact, it's growing because we have no work-life separation. We're working from home, we're trying to fit it all in. In fact, 1 in 4 women in 2020, now 1 in 3 women in 2021, are looking to downsize their lives, to downshift, because they just can't fit it all in. They can't take care of their kids, have hobbies, maintain the household, and work. Something's got to give. 53% of men in the workforce are saying they're in burnout right now. 78% of the workforce in general here in the US are in burnout. So I know that busyness leads to that busyness, burnout, mental health crisis combination, because I was there when I was sitting on that couch. The good news is I'm not the only one talking about busyness. People like Adam Grant, Simon Sinek, researchers and leaders who are talking about authentic leadership and creativity when we slow down, when we embrace that languishing we've all heard about recently. People like Michelle Obama, who talked about busyness jeopardizing her relationship with her children. And the therapist's favorite, Brene Brown, who we all love, who said, Americans wear this badge of busyness with pride. We glorify it. Hashtag grind, hashtag hustle, all the things. Brene Brown says, let's take off that badge of busyness. Why should we glorify it? And I have to agree with her. More Americans, as I have this conversation with them, are telling me that they feel guilt for doing nothing. We don't know how to do nothing anymore. In fact, Celeste Headley wrote a book called Do Nothing last year in 2020, aptly named of how we got to the place where business was a problem in the first place. So if you relate to any of this, I have 3 strategies for you to relieve your own burden of busyness. Number 1, go lean on lists. I want you to imagine everything you want to accomplish in the next 6 months, personal and professional. Maybe you want to start a new hobby, you want to take a 2-week vacation, maybe on the professional side, you want a promotion or to start your own business. Think about everything you want to accomplish in the next 6 months. Now I want you to narrow that down to your top 10 priorities. What's most important to you? What do you want to accomplish? Now, where I usually get pushback from my driven professionals is when I say, if these are truly your top 10 priorities, nothing else can be added. Nothing else can be put on the list. But Khara, I can do way more than 10 things in 6 months. Yes, you can. But should you? Or is that busyness, yet again, driving you to keep full and to keep going and to keep busy? The professionals who embrace this exercise recognize that they're more focused, have more purpose, have more drive, and accomplish way more by being productive because they're not distracted by busyness. they actually get more done with less. So if you try that exercise, I can guarantee that you'll see a shift. Your second strategy is to say no more. No more and no more often. Think of all the things people ask of you. Are they asking for your time, your energy, your money? Are they asking for help, for overtime at work, for help on a project? Think of the things that they ask. And now let's craft our no's to say no more often. No is a complete sentence. You've heard this before, but for so many busy professionals, it's really hard to say no. No, thank you, check back next week, I'm available next month. How do we craft those no's that are authentic, real, and allow boundaries against busyness? That is what I want you to consider as your second strategy. How do we say no? Your third strategy is to redefine self-care. Now I get it. Self-care is something therapists love to talk about. We talk about it all the time. You're seeing it on social media everywhere. Some of you had a hard eye roll as soon as I said the word self-care. And I get it. So allow me to redefine self-care, because you all had an image pop up that I can almost guarantee was commercialized. What do I mean by that? Well, some of you were thinking manicures, pedicures, and vacations, massages as your self-care. The luxury of the rich, if not in time, in money. And guess what? In COVID, a lot of that wasn't even accessible. So people weren't even doing self-care, if at all, because it felt like a luxury, and then it was omitted as we were all home. So allow me to redefine self-care as rest versus restoration. Rest, we do relatively well. It's hanging out, having no plans, binge watching a show, sitting on the couch, doing nothing. Now, I mentioned some of you will struggle with how much of nothing you can do, but we can rest. And yet there's a group of us that when we get to that place of Monday, we still feel exhausted, because rest is only half the equation of self-care. The other half is restoration. What restores you? What invigorates you? What energizes you? What builds you back up? What fills your cup? When I ask this question of clients, I get beautiful answers that are authentic and actually measurable and can be done in 5 to 10 minutes and make all the difference. Things like playing with their kids, walking with the dog, cooking or baking, being in nature. We saw more jigsaw and Lego purchases in 2020 than we have in a while. And part of that was the playfulness that we were all missing, of like, oh, this can give me some sanity back. This can help me slow down. Now I get it. I used to say that I sucked at self-care. And I was saying that as a therapist to my clients. Well, I suck at self-care. And part of that was I had to figure out what worked for me, just like all of you have to figure out what works for you. For me, it's movement. When I'm anxious, when I'm tired, when I want really good ideas, I move my body. So how does this work in a Colorado snowstorm? I want you to imagine a snow day, that typical snow day before COVID, where you didn't have to work. Now we have to, right? Like, everything's that way. But then we got to actually have a day of nothing. And so there we are. My spouse is happy. He gets to have a day off of work in the middle of a work week, and I'm just happy to spend time with him. So why was it that in 4 hours, I felt like I was going to crawl out of my skin? I was anxious. I was miserable, because in my head, busyness was saying, do something, do anything. Be productive. You can't not do this for more than 4 hours. And I wanted to move my body, and here we are with snow going sideways and sub-zero temperatures, and I felt trapped. But instead of letting busyness win, I looked at my spouse and I told him what was going on, that I was literally going to have a panic attack if I didn't figure something out. And he looked at me with a smile on his face. He's like, I have an idea. He grabbed my hand and he ran me up and down the stairs until we were breathless, till I felt the blood pulsing in my veins, till I could laugh and be giddy as a child as we were in our slippered feet up and down these carpeted stairs. And that's when self-care clicked for me. This is self-care. It's not just rest or doing nothing, it's also that restoration. So if this resonates with you and you're ready to remove your own burden of busyness, I challenge you to identify those top 10 things that are important and put them on a sticky note that you can see every single day. I challenge you to craft your no's in your inbox, so the next time a distraction or a project pops in, you're that much more prepared to say no. And I challenge you just this week to identify self-care, one thing that's restful and one thing that's restorative, that you can do to battle against that busyness. As Brene Brown would say, we're going to take off that badge. Think about the next time someone asks you how you are. Are you going to respond, busy? Or is your answer going to be something more authentic, more real to what your life looks like now? Regardless of your answer, I hope you'll join me in relieving the burden of busyness. Thank you.